Well, good morning and welcome to Mayor's Weekly. We're back after Memorial Day weekend. I hope that was an enjoyable time for you at talking with our leadership across the city, at police and fire. That it was a quiet weekend, and we always welcome that. Nothing major in the way of crime or fires or accidents, and that's what you always hope for. And certainly credit goes to our police and firemen for the job they do and looking after our city. And joining me today is our recently appointed fire chief, Alan Clark, recently appointed as chief, but pretty much all of his working life has been spent with the Jasper Fire Department, maybe some 30 years. Is that right, Chief?
Yeah, about 28 total.
28,
yes,
pretty close to 30.
Yes, close enough.
But how do we get a fire chief? And municipalities have got, and Jasper don't write these rules. That kind of strange to me, but the fire chief and the police chief are hired by the council. The mayor is not given any input, was not given any input into this hiring, and but as soon as the gavel drops, chief, you go to work for the mayor, don't you?
Yes, sir. That's
kind of strange. I'm just real lucky that I think a lot of Chief Clark know his abilities. If it's the other way around, I guess I just have to say I stuck. But anyway, that's the way it is. Don't really make sense to me. Not trying to reach out and grab territory, but to have one entity hire folks and then hand them to somebody else to work with and provide administrative support on a daily basis is kind of strange. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. But Chief, you've been in our fire department for a long time. You've seen a lot of change, and of course the world's changed. Jasper's grown, and I like to see people. You started at entry level, worked your way to assistant chief, and now chief of the department. So nothing happens in our fire department that you haven't seen many, many times. And to have that experience and that expertise is a great value to the city. To have a known product, if you had to hire somebody from a way that you didn't know, then those things always carry some risk. And but if you have somebody that's grown up in your ranks, then you can have reasonable assurance of and knowing what you're going to get. And I appreciate that. Chief, we've talked a good bit over the last month and a half. You've been in office now probably approaching 3 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thought my recollection was correct. Takes a lot of money to run a fire department, does it not?
It sure does.
How many people do you have working for you, Chief?
We have 3 8-man shifts, and
Yeah.
we have a day shift administrative clerk. We have a deputy fire chief, and then we're going to talk about getting a training officer position that's open. We're going to promote that'll be a captain's position coming up that we'll do.
Well, Chief, we look at what it costs to run a department, and I guess the best way to put that in perspective, and I don't know if you went through, if David did for mid-year budget reviews, but the budget for the fire department is what? Do you know? And you may not.
$2.2 million.
$2.2 million. Now, aside from that, let's talk about some of our expenditures, purchases in just recent times. We bought a new fire truck. I know you and our former chief were active in getting the specs together, finding a vendor, and that sort of thing, and pretty expensive piece of equipment.
By the time we got it equipped, it was over $600,000.
$600,000. You have to borrow any money on that?
No, sir.
You got it paid for?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you remember when that wasn't the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can remember that.
I'm not a lawyer, don't sound like that. But
Yeah.
but other sophisticated equipment and equipment you have to have, you and I talked about it. When you go into a house fire or whatever, our people have to be equipped. They have to have oxygen backpacks and that sort of thing. and that doesn't happen. You don't set those backpacks out and let them fill up with air, do you? Tell us about the piece of equipment that we've just ordered and what it does.
And that's one of the things, you know, as I got in, that was one of the things. It wasn't nothing on the old chief at all. Dave done a great job, but we started having failures in certain areas, just from wear and tear. It happens,
Yeah.
and no warning. But our cascade system, we got it, had it repaired a few times, and it's finally getting to the point to where it's going to have to be replaced. You know, I came to you and we got that going. I think about $55,200 to get that replaced, and we have it ordered. It's been ordered. I mean, it's not that the money's not there, but due to the COVID times and everything else, it's being built right now. We're expected sometime probably in August maybe to see that piece of equipment. And that's just one of the pieces that I've had to come to you about.
Well, if you will see one of our firemen about to go into a house that's on fire, if he had on his swim trunk, he'd look a lot like he's going scuba diving, wouldn't he? Because that backpack, what, a couple of tanks on his back?
Well, he's got one. It's compressed air. 4,500 pounds pressure, you know, so of compressed air on him. You know, we compress that air down. We have it has to be tested 2 times a year, that breathing air does. So this is something that's vital to the fire service. We have to have it. I can remember a time when I first started volunteering, we had one that was an older system, you know.
Yeah,
so.
and it's precise. You say, somebody might say, well, why don't you just get a compressor like you air up tires with? More sophisticated than that, isn't it?
A lot more sophisticated. Pressurized is even totally. I mean, you're
Right.
talking 4,500 PSI.
Yeah.
And in your storage, you're keeping about 5,000 PSI in your storage cylinders in it. So.
And this piece of equipment is now worn out, and as you shared with me, probably last night or whatever, it drew its last breath. How long did that piece of equipment service you?
About 14 years.
14 years. So, you know, you think about we spending $50-some-odd thousand on this piece of equipment, and it'll probably be good 14, 15 years. And so, well, that sounds like a lot of money it is when you spread it over the life of it. Now, you touched on something, Chief, that I'm a big proponent of, and that's building relationships. Building relationships has brought tremendous value to this city, and folks outside the city and folks that can help you and whatever. Chief, talk just a little bit about the relationship you built with some fire departments that's allowing you to bridge this gap till we get this new piece of equipment.
Well, I've reached out to Curry Fire Department and told them what our situation was, and I've known those folks my whole fire career. They with open arms, they said, here's the code to our station, showed me how to use the equipment, and here you go. In the meantime, Bodo Fire reached out to me and said, hey, come talk with us. I got a key to their station now, myself and the deputy fire chief. We know how to work their equipment. They said, come use our equipment. This is something we have to have, and it's not that the city doesn't have the money to get it. We got the money. There's not one anywhere. You know, they're having to build ours. So, I mean, those are things that you, as a leader, you have to keep those doors open, and we'll return the favor to these folks.
Yeah, and you talk about a $55,000 piece of equipment. You generally don't go out and just buy one. Well, this may tear it up in a year or two. It's too much money. You know, you've got to let it go its course, and if it begins to become unreliable, as ours did,
Yes.
we responded in the affirmative and got one ordered, so we won't have much of a gap there.
No, and we spent, I think, about $4,000 2 or 3 years ago having it rebuilt.
Yeah.
It's just went to the point now it's not
That's
non-serviceable.
there's not much you can do with the deal, is there?
No.
Fire department does a lot of things that, I said this for an old gentleman here in Jasper, when he'd hear a siren go, and he'd say our firemen are going to get them a cigar, which is far from the truth.
No.
But automobile wrecks, had one this morning. Our folks were on the scene up on Airport Road, 4 o'clock in the morning. But I want to give you an account of a heartwarming account of a piece of work by our fire department that happened in our city yesterday. We had a house fire. Doesn't matter where it's at, doesn't matter who it belonged to or whatever. And Chief Clark was telling me about it. They're there and they're trying to extinguish the blaze. And as they're working through this structure engulfed in flame, they discovered a mama cat had 3 kittens at the nursing stage of their life, and I think one of them kind of moved off or whatever. But our firemen were able to get these cats. I think they were in some sort of an enclosure, pantry, cabinet, or whatever, and they had a sharp eye. And what they observed is this mama cat has pretty much overcome by smoke inhalation. And we talked about our oxygen tanks and whatever. And these firemen had the vision and the foresight to try to help this cat, and they helped this mama cat by letting that cat have some oxygen from their supply of oxygen. The mama cat and the 3 kittens were passed on to our police department as they should have been, and I was able to learn what happened on the backside of that. The mama cat was so traumatized by what's going on there that she had stopped producing milk, and these 2 little ones, and a sad report on the third one. The third one had some congenital issues caused it to have to be put down. But the 2 remaining surviving babies were sent to a bottle feeder, and the folks that work on this believe that this mama cat will begin to produce milk today and can be reunited with her
Good
kittens.
news.
But that's a part of it, and most citizens would never know that our fire department has a hand in things like that.
That's
And,
true. You know, it was life when we saw it. You know, it was still alive, so we done what we could. You know, we had at one point in time, I realized we had a fire still going on. Our guys were fighting it, so we put the oxygen on them, put it there close to their faces and stuff, and laid them there and went back to fighting fire. And we'd keep a check on them.
And
that's good.
I have no doubt, based on my connections on the backside of this, that those animals are alive because of our firemen. And Chief, I appreciate that.
That's no
and
problem.
a lot of animal enthusiasts will share my sentiments on that. Chief, as we go forward, we got to do the blocking and tackling nuts and bolts that we do every day, but all the while we have to do those things, and the bar keeps getting higher and higher to keep our ISO rating. I believe that's right.
Yes,
as
sir.
at high level as we can keep it, because that benefits everybody. If you own a commercial structure, residential structure, and that's no easy feat, is it?
No, sir. You have to stay on top of it. You know, and that's one of the other purchases I've come to you with. During our hose test, we had some sections of our supply line fail hose testing, and I came to you what we needed, and we've got that ordered.
Well, if you'd have just been, there's a lot of people are just lax, not paying attention, and the folks that do those inspections came in and found out that our hose pipes would not pass a pressure test. Bingo, the ISO, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
But and what we're talking about there, Chief, I believe we spent $5,000-6,000 maybe. $6,000, but that we can handle that real easy. But thankful he kept an eye on it and whatever, because that'd be something be easy to they're stored away and
we test our hose yearly. Our guys got out, tested the hose. They had failure in some of them, wrote it down, and got with you, and we got that ordered. And some things we have to test.
That's good. Well, Chief, I can't tell you how pleased I am that you're serving our fire chief, and I hope the job meets your expectations in every way, and I appreciate your leadership. And where I'm at from an administrative perspective, that I'm going to stand by to support you. I hope I've demonstrated that, and will continue to demonstrate it. But anything that you might want to share with the folks about the fire department, we do a great job, and they have to do a great job every day, because there's no smooth water in the fire department business. There's something happening every day.
Every day. One of the things pre-COVID, we had the COVID deal where we ran limited calls. We still were there for the emergencies, but we had certain calls that we weren't running. But that's one of the things I spoke to you about. And Monday, we will go back to pre-COVID run. Everything's opening back up.
Right.
Monday, I will get with 911, Tim Thomas at 911, get him an email. Our call volume, of course, is going to go up on that, but we're going to go back to running pre-COVID calls. We're going to go back to being out there. We're going to get back out in the community. It's time. We'll get back out doing our pre-fire surveys, and as things come along, you'll start seeing us out a little more in the community, going back to that.
But the work that lies ahead of you, and professional opinion, from an equipment standpoint, you're equipped to do the work that comes
Yes,
at you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir. Equipped to do it.
I noticed you was showing me that you go to wreck, people are trapped in automobiles, whatever. We have electric chainsaws and that sort of thing, so you don't have to work with a hydraulic hose or electric line coming off the fire. You can take care of problems.
That's correct. We still have hydraulics on a couple of our trucks, but the new truck, we were going green with it because it's all rechargeable. The extrication tool that we were afforded to get, $16,000 to $17,000. It's a combination cutter spreader made by Hamatro. It's all rechargeable. Our fan now, our PPV, is rechargeable. The chainsaw we talked about is rechargeable. It's a little Husqvarna, very nice. We used it yesterday. And so that's one of the things that you got to have it to do. That's just it.
Yeah. Chief, again, we're glad to have you, and what I'd say to you is I always say questions, thoughts, ideas, critiques, whatever, send them our way, and you will get a response. And I always add this as a qualifier: anything that comes from a poison pen will be ignored. So glad to have you with us, and we'll look forward to being with you next week.